What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor, and this is my personal recovery journey. I am very grateful for all my subscribers, all the comments, and the support. This is the reason I created the channel, because I think it's really important to me in my recovery to be of service to other people by sharing how I got to where I'm at today. This video is going to focus on my experience with the 10th step and 12-step programs. And I always like to say 12-step programs because the steps stay the same in every single 12-step program. There's over 50 different 12-step programs. And I'm going to use this as an example. So in Emotions Anonymous, step 1 says we are powerless over our emotions that our lives have become unmanageable. Okay. In Alcoholics Anonymous, they say in step 1, we are powerless over alcohol that our lives have become unmanageable. In Adult Children's of Alcoholics and Dysfunctions, they say we are powerless over our childhood dysfunction and that our lives have become unmanageable. So my point is, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, what you're struggling with, addiction issues, anything. You can say, step 1, we are powerless over blank, that our lives have become unmanageable. So the steps stay the same in every single fellowship, okay? And I started off in Alcoholics Anonymous, so that's where I have more experience at. And the importance of a 10th step is a maintenance step. Now, when I first started recovery about 3 years ago, I was told I didn't have to wait to do a 10th step every night before I got to the, I didn't have to wait until I got to the 10th step to start a 10th step inventory. I could start it at any time. And I'm so grateful that I had a sponsor tell me that, because I feel like it gave me structure. It gave me a new habit to develop. And so the 10th step has been very vital in my recovery, and it still is today. And the reason is what that 10th step helps me do is address the things that arise. Okay, if I'm constantly, every day, if I'm doing a 10th step at night, and I say at night because that's the end of the day before we retire, before we go to bed, right? Every single night for almost 2 years, I have came outside and I make that my time. I call it my spiritual commitment, okay? My spiritual routine. And I do a 10th step. I sit here, I self-reflect. I do intentions, I do positive self-talk out loud, talking to myself. I connect with myself and the power of life, okay? And since I've been doing that, I can tell the difference in how I feel towards other people, and just overall my entire life since I've been self-reflecting. So what the 10th step taught me, because when I started doing it so much in the beginning, you can download everything, AA app, or there's even apps. Type in 10th step inventory on the app store, and there's so many different resources and so many different options, but usually they're all getting at the same thing. You can also go to Google and type in 10th step inventory PDF, and so many different ones, the way they look, will pop up. And so I would love printing things out so I can always go back and look at them, but also in the apps it saves your response so you can go back and look at it as well. But in the beginning, I would have to set my alarm clock to go off at a specific time every day, every night, and I would have to sit down and do that 10-step inventory. Well, what this taught my brain is that this is a new habit that I'm trying to make familiar to my brain. So through time, through consistency and repetition, it started becoming a part of my programming, where it got to a point where I would be doing my normal day-to-day stuff, and the things that are listed in the 10th step, the questions would start popping and rolling through my head automatically. So my point is that it's not like I have to sit down and do a 10th step every single night, because it became a part of my programming to where I graduated from doing a 10th step inventory every night to just grabbing my notebook and self-reflecting and reviewing my day. And so the little things that they suggest to do early in recovery doesn't mean that we're going to have to do those things the same way the rest of our lives. And I didn't realize that before. I really didn't realize that until I started seeing it unfold in my life. And I really started seeing things differently because I'm a very open-minded person. And so the 10th step plays a vital role in my recovery, because if I can't identify things as they arise, and if I don't address things as they arise, they just keep, shoveling down, and then before you know it, I'm going to explode. And then I'm going to ask myself, and I'm going to wonder, what the hell's wrong with me? Why am I exploding? Well, it's because I'm not addressing the things that are arising. So ever since I've been addressing things as they arise, I haven't had zero explosions, no outburst, nothing the way I did before I came into recovery. And meditation also calmed me down a lot. It gave me the ability to gain control over the reactions to my emotions. I am powerless over my emotions. I cannot control if I'm going to have an emotion, but I can control my reaction to my emotion. So the thing about the steps is this. I have a long video on my experience with the 4th step, okay? And what that 4th step does is it shows people that the things we have in our head has to come out on paper. And what the 5th step shows is that not only does it have to come from our head to paper, but it needs to come out of our mouth. So that's basically a way of processing our pain. And the 10th step is a maintenance step. So we don't have to keep doing 4 steps over and over and over again, because if a person's doing a 10th step every day and self-reflecting, they won't have to ever do a 4th step again. They might brush up. I know a lot of people once a year, and I am the same way. They will go and they will do a 4th step once a year just to, refresh everything. And I love that idea, because the thing about the steps is it's not just let's work these steps all the way through and then I'm going to be done with recovery. I'll never have to do it again. And that's not true, because this is a lifelong process. So step 10 has been a major influence in my life. And also, it's developed into one of my main coping mechanisms, and I'll use this as an example. So let's say I feel rejected by my spouse, per se. Before recovery, I used to blow out. I was very needy, very codependent, and very anxious, okay? And since I've been in recovery, and since I've developed all these new skills and coping mechanisms and habits and learning everything that I've learned, I learned a long time ago that when I'm in a situation and I feel unheard, unseen, or misunderstood, that I need to just walk away. Because when I'm feeling that way, anything that comes out my mouth, I will regret, because I'm not logically thinking. When my body is in flight or fight response, I'm going to regret what I say, because I'm not thinking logically, and I'm definitely not reasoning. So what I started doing when I did get triggered like that, is grabbing my notebook, coming outside, and just start writing what's going on inside my head. Like, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening? Like, self-reflecting. And that's what the 10th step also taught me. It taught me how to identify and connect to my emotions, connect to myself, to really ask myself, what's really underneath this rejection, okay? And also, I want to make this very clear, is that I can sit here all day long and I can identify the causes, why I feel the way I feel, and the reasons I feel the way I do, but that doesn't stop the emotion itself in the future, in future situations, okay? If I'm self-reflecting, every time I self-reflect, I come up with a solution, a way of things that I can do to help me heal myself and overcome however I'm feeling. I come up with a solution. So I don't just sit there and self-reflect and just find out what the cause is, because I can know the cause all day long, but the cause isn't going to stop me from reacting the way I'm reacting or experiencing the emotion that I'm experiencing. So I'll use this as an example. Lately I've been having a lot of difficulty sharing my experience, strength, and hope in specific meetings. And so the other night I came outside and I self-reflected, and I like to talk into my voice recorder app because I like to revisit it. I like to go back. Months from now, I'll go back and I'll listen to it and I'll see my growth and see my progress, and I'll see what still needs improvement. And I had my notebook and I was self-reflecting, and I was like, okay, I know why, right? I know why I feel like I can't share the way I used to share. And I came up with all these reasons why. And I was like, well, knowing why doesn't stop the fact that I'm still nervous when I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope in specific meetings. So what is the solution to this? My solution was to find other meetings. Okay, I asked myself, what am I looking for in a meeting? Well, I'm looking for people who bring the solution and not the problem, and I'm looking for open-minded people. And so that's very simple. And I also, as an action step, I'm like, how can I help myself not be so nervous when I'm sharing? And I do a lot of intentions. I do a lot of positive self-talk. I wrote on my mirror what to do, because I go to my mirror like several times a day. I go in the bathroom, right? And so I wrote positive pep talks out loud. And this has helped me so much in my recovery. Looking in the mirror, looking into my eyes, and encouraging myself, supporting myself, and just pumping myself up with motivation. That is also my number one coping mechanism. I would not be where I'm at without positive self-talk. It would not be possible. And under that, I wrote, create new intentions. And I take time throughout my day. If a situation happens, because of these little habits I'm talking about, the 4th step, the 5th step, the 10th step, the maintenance step, maintaining, taking a written inventory every night, I'm able to really pause in situations today and look at my part without wanting to attack the other person. So these steps are a lot deeper than what they look like on the surface, and that's what I'm trying to explain. It's like the way my brain works and the way that I am able to break things down in a systematical way. And I'll use this as another example. I have tried so many different recovery programs the past 6 months maybe. I found out there's different recovery programs, more than 12-step programs out there. And I noticed that they all basically have the same principles. Some of them are religious and some of them are not, which means secular. And I've really been able to hear other people's experiences, strength, and hope. And I've just really been able to see that they all have one common theme, which is basically clean house, and how to emotionally and spiritually connect to oneself, how to forgive oneself, how to live in love and compassion, how to be honest, open-minded, willing, and how to take action, how to have intentions. All these programs might be speaking different vocabulary words, but they're all speaking the same language. And so doing a 10-step inventory and being able to self-reflect and really dive deep in myself and to bring up what I had shoved down my entire life, to bring that up was painful. It's painful to take a look at oneself. It's painful to take a look at someone else's self. It's painful to admit when I might be wrong. It's painful to pull up the parts of me that I have shoved down and I have avoided and I have dismissed my entire life. But the key to recovery is learning how to cope and navigate pain in a healthy way without having to turn to substances. That was the problem, is that my entire life I didn't know how to deal with this intense pain that I've dealt with my entire life. And the more I dove into addiction, the more consequences, the more I lost, the more broken I became. And I didn't know how to cope with pain without being numbed, because I had been numbed out my entire life. So what people don't realize, because I didn't realize this myself until I actually experienced it, is the first 6 months to a year in recovery is the most hardest, because a person is reprogramming their brain, they're breaking old conditioning, they're trying to forgive themselves, they're trying to forgive others, they're trying to develop new habits, new coping mechanisms, and they're still trying to maintain a job or be a mom or be a husband, whatever. They still have their roles they have to play in society while they're trying to work on themselves. And inner work is not easy, and it's not fun. And when I learned how to deal and cope with pain, I realized pain isn't as scary as my brain is trying to convince me it is. I just had to be willing to stay sober long enough to get my body and my mind and my brain familiar with feeling my emotions. I had to learn to sit with my emotions. And trust me, I have some serious, intensified emotions. When I feel unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, I feel like a bomb is physically exploding through my entire body. And before recovery, I would just flash out. Now, I can sit with that physical sensation while encouraging myself and supporting myself in my head and comforting myself. You know, and that's what it's all about. Learning how to cope with pain without turning to addiction. Learning how to address things as they arise instead of dismissing, avoiding, or shoving them down, because pain doesn't disappear. The only way pain is able to go away is for a person to actually feel the pain without judgment, process the pain, and comfort and support themselves without criticizing, without blaming, without shaming. And that's what that 10-step was about for me, and that's how it's impacted my recovery, and that's how it's impacting my recovery today. I would not be where I'm at without diving deep within myself and pulling up all the stuff that I had hid from myself and from other people my entire life. So the steps are in order for a reason, and I encourage people to keep an open mind. You know, that's one thing Alcoholics Anonymous and any 12-step program, they always say, if a person is not honest, open-minded, or willing, these programs can't work. And they're not lying. They're not lying. It's not about the program. It's about the person willing to work the program. Okay? And so that is how a 10-step impacts me and in my recovery, and why it's such a vital skill to develop and a habit to develop and to make a routine with completing a 10-step. I hope this video can help you understand a 10-step better and why it's important in recovery to maintain that. So